Okay. So, of course, this is what your portal will look like only with your credentials, not mine, but you're going to click sign in. There we go. Alrighty. So you're speaking with your driver. Like Laura, I should say, just went over. You want to only put in the zip code. If you add anything else to it, honestly, you're not going to see any of the local results, and it's going to give you all sorts of weird off the wall stuff. So let's pretend like the driver said 01602 was his zip code. So, of course, you click search and you're waiting and you're doing your pre qualifying questions while you are waiting for this to load up. So, in this case, let's say they're both 6 months. So, let's pretend the driver had 8 months. I would just start out with I've got a local out of Sharon, Massachusetts that is averaging 59,800 annually. And I've got a semi local out of Worcester, Massachusetts that's averaging 95,000 annually. Which one would you like for me to go over? Let's say that he wants local. Okay. You're going to click position details up here at the top. This is going to be a Zenith Boston account. There are 2 drivers needed. You don't need to tell your driver that. That's for you to know. If it's only got 1 or 2 there, just keep in mind that the jobs fill super, super fast. So you may try to submit the driver and they say it's already full. And so just kind of be mindful of that. But I would always try. This is one of the rare jobs that is going to take a Class A or a Class B. JB is the only carrier that we work with that actually has some Class B jobs and even some Class C jobs. You need 6 months experience, 59,800. Like Laura said, if you just go ahead and take that number and then divide it by 52 weeks in a year, it comes out to 1150 a week. So you can tell him he's going to look at averaging 1150 a week. He is going to operate within New York, Massachusetts, and Maine. This is an hourly job. They are paid and they get overtime at time and a half. Monday through Friday, there are a couple Saturdays, normally 4 a.m. to 7 a.m., but could vary day to day, but 90% of it is day driving. In this job, they are removing furniture and other merchandise from the trucks using a hand truck or dolly. The trucks are preloaded. However, drivers that have any sort of pickups and returns, they're going to have to load those themselves. And they absolutely do not have helpers on this account. Make sure your driver knows that. They're operating box trucks, which of course is why they're allowing them to have only a Class B license. Hand trucks, dollies, pallet jacks. They must be able to exert 100 pounds of force. And these are all automatics, but they are permanently assigned trucks, no slip seating. I don't ever tell them about the company shirts. I mean, I guess if you think it's a selling point, you can. They are being paid $23 an hour. And then, of course, time and a half for overtime. And down here at the bottom, this really only seems to be a problem with local jobs. This is the exact address that this account operates out of. You are only allowed to live within 40 miles of that address. The problem with zip codes is some zip codes cover such a large area that even though the zip code shows up in the portal as, being good, the driver may live on the wrong side of that zip code and actually wind up being rejected for being outside of the hiring radius. So what I always like to do is just open up a second page. I start zip code to zip code, and if it's too close to that 40, then I will go ahead and do address to address. But 02067, there it is, to 01602. And when you do that, it's 33.34 miles. Within 40, I would go ahead and get that driver's address from him just to be for certain, to be safe, assuming he wants that job. If he doesn't really feel like doing manual labor, kind of get it. Maybe he wants to look at the semi-local. It still needs 6 months. This time we're on CNS Wholesale Grocer. This one's out of Westfield, Massachusetts. They do need 5 drivers, 95,000 annually. So that way we can go ahead and tell the driver 95,000. You're looking at 1826 a week. This time they're going to operate within a 250-mile radius of Westfield, Massachusetts. You can go into all these pay details, but honestly, it's just going to come up to the average pay. So I wouldn't bother unless the driver starts really asking, am I going to get paid for layover, detention, what have you? Then definitely go over it. But otherwise, all that math is going to come up to that same number that was just quoted. This is super early start time between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., Monday through Friday, and every other Saturday or Sunday will be required. The driver should expect to be out in the truck 2 to 3 nights per week. So that means they will be home 2 to 3 nights per week. Drivers who live in Hartford will not be accepted. So if your driver lives in Hartford, just don't sell him this job. Must have driven and delivered into the boroughs for at least 3 months. Please make sure your driver has done that before you submit him on this account. They are delivering fresh and frozen groceries. They are, of course, in van and reefer trailers. They're going to supermarkets and distribution centers. They are multi-stop loads. They are hand unloading it. 1 to 3 pallets per stop that are unloaded by the driver with a manual pallet jack and lift gate. So make sure the driver understands that he would be touching the freight on this account. They actually have a mix of automatics and manual trucks on this particular account, but they are all day cabs and they have got to stay on the account. So, that's where it comes in. It says that they cannot be taken. So then you'd come down to the bottom and let him know it's saying Westfield, are you going to be okay, Mr. Driver, with from wherever you live to driving to Westfield, Massachusetts, and in your personal vehicle? And, if he is, great. We don't need any of that. They are off Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. And then this is just the same overview again. It's a sleeper truck, reefer trailers. They don't take riders or pets. Those are all their locations, out 2 to 3 nights per week. Let's look at a different area. Your portal definitely will time out. I like to always refresh it after every phone call because otherwise you're going to be in the middle of something and it's just going to be done. Let's see, 84404. Say your driver lives there. You're once again asking him your pre-qualifying questions. And now we've got a semi-local out of Salt Lake City, Utah. And we have a regional out of Salt Lake City, Utah. This one, of course, is 3 months. This one is 6 months. So we'll look at the 3-month one. This one's going to be Costco. They need 8 drivers. They actually needed almost 20 of them a day or so ago. So it's filling fast because it's a really good account. 85,500 annually. I'm not going to redo the math. I'm sure y'all have figured out how to divide by 52. This time they're going to operate within Utah, Idaho, and Montana. Training will last 2 days. Now, this one's kind of a different schedule. If you notice, it's going to be a rotating schedule, and make sure the driver understands that because not everybody's okay with it. He's first going to work 4 days and then be off for 3, but then he's going to work 6 days the next week and be off for 1. But their start day will be consistent every week. The only thing that's really going to change is whether or not they're working 4 days that week or 6 days that week. Drivers will be out on the truck an average to 2 to 3 nights per week. So that obviously means on a 6-day week, they'll be home 2 to 3 nights per week. It is all no-touch freight. Drivers love that. It does consist of drop and hook and live unload. However, live unload is rare. That is a huge selling point. Anytime that they say it's major drop, mostly drop and hook, I always mention that because drivers love dropping that trailer hook into another one and going versus sitting and waiting to be unloaded. Of course, they must provide all their transportation to and from work. However, these trucks are permanently assigned. And of course, in the winter, they're going to have to chain. It's highlighted. You have to tell them that. But I mean, in the same respect, they live in Utah. So I'm going to assume they understand they have to chain, but go ahead and let them know that. And then, of course, let them know that they will have to drive back and forth to the yard in Salt Lake City. And then, of course, down here, it's just everything back up there again, just smaller. And let's see, we've got a regional. This one would be Amazon. Class A, we need 2 of them, 95,000 annually. That's everywhere they're going to work this time. Now, this one is actually paid at a daily rate. That's actually a pretty big selling point to drivers too. So while I don't go through, oh, you're going to pay this much per mile and this much per stop, when it's a daily rate, I let them know, look, every day you show up, you're making $301. That's how you're going to be paid. And that makes them pretty happy. Let's see. Now, I want you guys to notice right here, it says semi-local. But if you remember right here, it said regional. When they do that, what that means is that they do have a slim possibility of maybe getting home 1 or 2 nights a week, but none of it is guaranteed. So when it says regional and semi-local, only promise regional. Don't promise any sort of semi-local because that's not being promised to us. Let's see, they are going to have stops within Denver, Las Vegas, Boise, and Reno. Of course, all no-touch freight. Only 5 to 10% this time are going to be live unload. Everything else is going to be drop and hook. Definitely let them know that they're going to have to work the early hours of Christmas Day because some drivers aren't okay with that. They do have to leave the truck at the account. And this time they have it highlighted that they are all internationals. So let the driver know that there is not a choice on this particular account. It will be internationals or nothing. And then, of course, down here, once again, it's all pretty much the same. All righty. We're going to go through one more zip code so I can show you guys. I don't know why my team's aware and Laura's team's aware. JB Hunt has some student accounts. Now, the thing about student accounts is you have to be a new graduate. If you try to send over a driver that has 3 or 4 months of experience for a student account, they will be rejected for having too much experience. So you can only sell student accounts to drivers that went to truck driving school and have less than 3 months of experience. Whenever you're looking at the portal here, you see how this says 3 months, this says 3 months, this says nothing. This is a student account. So if your driver has 3 months or more of experience, do not try to submit them for this one. Submit them for this one up here. I mean, you can tell by the pay alone, it's the same exact job. But if you try to do it with your driver being too experienced and you submit them to the wrong account, they will reject them. So just be mindful of that. But then, it's same as everything else. Otherwise, it's got your location, dedicated, how much they're going to make, all that. So we'll look at Green Forest, Arkansas. This is going to be Denali Water. Of course, there's your average pay. Now, if you look under endorsements, it says tanker. Your driver needs to have their tanker endorsement. If they don't, but they're in the process of getting it, go ahead and continue. If they haven't even given thought to getting their tanker endorsement, do not sell them on this job because of the fact that they're going to have it right here, or where's it at? They're going to have it before they get started. So if they're already in the process of it, they've got their appointment to take the test, the DMV, I would go ahead and proceed. If they've never even given a thought about a tanker endorsement being added to their CDL, don't sell them on this. They're not going to get it done in time. The DMV stays so backed up. They're not. This one will operate in Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri. And this is an hourly job, you can tell, by 57 hours and 58 hours, Monday through Friday. But it is nighttime driving. JB Hunt does everything in military time. So that's 5 p.m. working 12 to 14 hours days. So 5 p.m. to 5 to 6 or 7 a.m. They're basically hauling non-potable water. Obviously, if they have their tanker endorsement, they understand they're going to be connecting hoses and operating a pump because that's what a tanker driver does. They've only got manual day cabs on this account. So if your driver told you during your pre-qualifying questions that he had an automatic restriction, then he won't qualify because they don't have any automatics right now. Yeah, they're all 13-speed Mack trucks, but they do expect third quarter to get some automatics. So, I mean, that doesn't help the driver now, but that just lets us know that we'll be able to sell people on that account later on this year that have an auto restriction. And then, once again, that's all that down there. Let me see. I want to look at this one. Cargill Turkey Live Haul. Exactly what it sounds like. They're going to be hauling live turkeys. $64,000 to $72,000 a year.
Are they all pardoned, Jenna?
Are they what? Yeah, no, they're not. They're going to be processed.
All right, gotcha, honey. All right.
This one is no touch freight. Most of the live hauls, they actually have to secure the cages down. So it's pretty rare to see no touch freight, but that one's nice that they don't actually have to secure anything. Automatic day cab Freightliners. This live haul driver testimony, that's just like a little YouTube video type thing of drivers they have talking about how much they like the job. You're more than welcome to send that to your driver. That's not any sort of big secret. They can have that if they just need that last little push. They're kind of on the edge. Oh, I don't know, maybe send them that testimony and see if it doesn't change their mind. Now, always come to the bottom because not every job, as you guys saw, but this one has a pay guarantee. And there's a lot of local jobs that do because, when you're new to an account, you're not necessarily making the average pay right away because you're learning procedures, you're learning your route, all that. So on a lot of these, JB will give them a guarantee pay for the first month or two. And that's a good selling point. The drivers want to know that while they're learning the account, they're going to bring home a paycheck that's still going to pay the bills. So just kind of always look for it. It's not always there, but if it is, let him know. So that way, he's aware that even while he's learning, he's going to get a decent paycheck. Let me show y'all what a student account looks like. See, 0 months trucking experience. And entry-level pay, you would have to explain to them. First, they're only going to get paid $200 a day. And then after training is when they make this bigger money. All student accounts are going to require an interview. That's just the way it is. They schedule a whole bunch of drivers for one interview, well, normally over a few days, maybe a week, and then they make their selection from there. So while it's not as, quick as getting them scheduled for orientation, we have drivers every week that pass their interviews and do get scheduled for orientation. It just means it's going to take longer for them to get hired and for you to get paid. But we do actually get drivers that do pass their interviews. You will get a lot of rejections of rejected interview. Another applicant was hired. And it doesn't necessarily mean there was anything wrong with your driver. They just found a better applicant. But I mean, it's one of those things, like I said, we get them flipped over to orientation scheduled all the time. So if you're coming across a lot of students, which I know we all do, and they're in areas that are hiring student drivers, go ahead and submit them. Yeah, you'll have more rejections than normal, but you'll also have drivers that'll get scheduled and hired. And JB Hunt pays us the same, whether it's a experienced driver or a student driver. So there's no real reason to not sell these jobs to guys that don't have 3 months of experience yet.